Einen wunderschönen guten Tag, liebe Freunde. Herzlich willkommen zu einem neuen YouTube-Video hier auf meinem Kanal. Es ist mal wieder Interviewzeit und ich habe heute wieder einen besonderen Gast an meiner Seite und den möchte ich auch direkt begrüßen. Nur zur Info, englische Kollegen, englische Spieler, dementsprechend ist das Interview auch mal wieder auf Englisch. So, first of all, thank you very much for joining me today and yeah, thank you for taking the time speaking to me.
Yes, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. I hope you as well because we have a big different time gap. So for you it's very early morning. I am having a blast here.
Yeah, no, that's 9 a.m. It's good enough. I'm up by now. I got the kids and everything, so they're off to school, so we're good.
Okay, sure. Okay, fair enough. For the people and the Riftbound interested people who don't know you or who are not familiar with you, would you mind introducing yourself for a second there?
Yeah, of course. My name is Vero. I My name is actually Anthony, but I go by Vero on a lot of online platforms. But been playing TCGs from when I was younger,
Hmm.
16, 17, 18, playing Magic and stuff back then. Moved to a lot of online card games, whether it's Hearthstone or Auto Battlers, Artifact, you name it. I've probably played it from Auto Battlers to card games on the online space. Of course, Legends of Runeterra I played a bit of, and then as of the last 4 to 5 years, I've been playing a lot more in-person TCGs, so a lot of Flesh and Blood I've played, and then as of recently, I've been playing Riftbound.
Hmm. So first question: what do you think makes Riftbound so special at the moment? Because, like you said before, you mentioned Flesh and Blood, mentioned Hearthstone, you mentioned Legends of Runeterra. Of course, some of them are digital only games, but the variety of TCG games nowadays is so immensely big and vast that how can you choose one for yourself? And Riftbound, of course, has the IP, but what makes it for you personally so special?
So Riftbound, I think, has a really good grasp on what makes TCG special. Both, its focus on in-person play as
Hmm.
well as having like multiple layers to play the game at. Of course, you have this, the best of system, which everybody loves. You get to play the hero or the legend. Whatever game you're coming from, there's legends, there's heroes, there's leaders, whatever you call them in the game you're coming
Hmm.
from. You get to play them. But in a lot of other games, sometimes it's just like, oh, this is my favorite guy or girl, and they're not very good. In this game, obviously, the best of system really helps for that, which I think is just a good from both a casual and a competitive standpoint. You can set your own goals as you're playing a tournament. And then, secondly, just talking about the gameplay itself, I think it does a good job of mixing both like, yes, it's a card game. You draw cards. You draw one card a turn. You play one or maybe two cards a turn. Very normal, like stuff we've all seen. And then, of course, it's adopted a new like progressive or like linear mana system, or in this game, energy system that a lot more games have been picking up, whether it's, oh, you just get like two a turn, or like, it builds up over time. It's not like, the old draw a land, play a land. Your deck is your deck, and your energy or your mana is that. So it picks up on those systems. And then I think what it does differently is integrating the board, kind of like a board game thing where, okay, you have your cards, you're playing your things, and now it's like there's the second layer of you're moving places, you're coming back places, you're defending places, you're attacking places. It gives just a whole nother avenue of decisions to make, which that isn't as simple as, oh, my card like does four, so I should play this for
Hmm.
this turn, or my card counters your spell. It's not as simple as like other games. There's you're playing your units, and then once they're there, they have more value than what's just written on the card. They have the movement economy as well. And I think it does all that very well. And then on top of it all, obviously, as you said, just has the IP. We see games come out all the time that look good, that look fun, they're cool for a bit. And whether it's a Bandai game that just gets replaced in a year, or a game from a smaller studio that just doesn't have the funds to make it, generally, Riot isn't gonna abandon their competitive esports type side of things, though, if you ask some people from other games might disagree, but for the most part, they seem to support their things through and through the life cycle. So I
Hmm.
think you have that consumer confidence as well.
Hmm. And like you mentioned before, you've played a lot of different trading card games, but you're not only playing them, you're also like guiding people how to play good at games. Because you're not only a player, you're also a competitor. You've been playing, if I'm correct, in Vegas.
Yeah, so I started the first tournament I played with about a week or two of experience was Houston.
Hmm.
Me and my team at the time was obviously Sean Dollywall
Hmm.
Diwali, as everybody knows. He went on to win it. Tarek was there. The best of Guarantee was there. Myself was there. I got like 17th or 18th on MF at the time. We built together that MF deck with a few other friends of mine, Mo got me into the game. Sam, she plays a lot of One Piece. You know, we all came
Hmm.
together, built a MF deck, showed everybody like, yeah, this deck's actually really good and real, and doesn't just rely on like pack trove and flipping an Aurora. You can make it different, and I think we showed that at how one of the best conversion rates. So I started out in Houston there. I try to tell people I'm like as far as like kind of like you're alluding to, like I am a competitor and I do like talking, spreading information, things like that. I've been getting into guide writing a little bit
Hmm.
here and there at the beginning of Riftbound, and I'm like I can tell you I'm like a 0 to 80 deck builder. Like I can like build up really quick, get a good shell that's going, and it's like somewhere in that B tier. It can do things. It has inconsistency issues. It has all these things, but it's doing a powerful thing. And then my next greater strength is like the 95 to 100% like area of deck building. Somewhere between 80 and 90, 95 to get that to the A tier deck. Like that's where like I get too many ideas, I lose a little bit of focus, things like that. But once I get that good foundation and somebody can bring me, a little bit more or like a more refined deck list comes
Hmm.
out, I can then take it from like that 90, 95 to 100%. And I think, we kind of showed that as a team and myself with that MF deck. Mo had given me a good, emotional Riftbound. He,
Hmm.
he does his content creator as well. He showed me a bunch of what they had going on at the time, and I liked stuff. And I was like, hey, why don't we do this? Let's try this. He's like, oh, I agree. We went back and forth, and I think we all built a pretty good list there. Towards the end of like, set two with Draven things, little tech things, I worked with like some of the challenger guys. I was just hanging out in Airbnb a few days before the tournament. I was like, hey, like, I wasn't the only one with the idea, but I was like, hey, let's try some Gem Jammer stuff. I think like we should just be playing three of these. Like Red Rumble's like an interesting thing as a one up. I know Boulevard, who I think got top eight at Vegas,
Hmm.
or excuse me, Atlanta. Also I adapted that text. I was like, okay, cool. Like I know I'm not crazy. So that's like where my strength kind of lies, like in the game. Uh, Sometimes I go off the wall. People saw like my best of Leona list that I put out before Sydney. A few people took it, got best of. I think I got best of again at
I mean,
the most recent tournament. And people iterated on it, of course. It's not all my work by any means. And then everybody saw my crazy Darius deck as well. But yeah,
I mean, you are offering your guides on Metafy. For example, Randy does it, Alan and his crew does it, and it
right.
shows that the stuff you do, the stuff you write down or you think about, is consistently good. I mean, look at MF. She was amazingly in the first couple of tournaments, but then in Bologna she was even second place, only losing to Ellen later on. Um,
Right.
I mean, you are onto something, and this is something which I can't wrap my head around because I like to play, I love to tinker with my decks, but my decks always lacking something special. And you are one of these persons, like you said, you create a shell, which is great. Then you need a little bit more input from the outside world. For example, you get some ideas what could work with it, and then you go from the 90, like you said, I guess 95% to the 100% or 90% to the 100%.
Right.
How much time do you spend on creating a guide, for example? Let's go back to Leona, on creating something which you would say, hey, I'm super happy with it. Of course, new set, new adaptation had to be done, but until then, how much time do you spend until you satisfied with it?
Right. So, like speaking to with Leona and the new set, obviously I go and just look. I play a little bit of everything here and
Mm-hmm.
there, but obviously since set one, I have not touched Leona. I talked to Casanova from Turnham Sideways a bunch about Leona in set one, so I have like ideas of like what he thought the strongest things in the deck were. I go through and look at every best of list, or just any tournament list, whether it's best of or just a somewhat high placing Leona list. Maybe it made day two or something,
Mm,
and just like kind of just parse all the cards and see like what is repeated a lot, like what card has come up a lot. Like there's obvious cards like, oh, the Zenith Blade signature spell. Okay, sure, like that's probably going to be in our deck. What are the other cards that show up a lot? Is it discipline? Is it charm? Like whatever it is for the deck, and try to just scrap all that out and be like, okay, in every list, no matter if it got 300th place or 50th place, it had these general cards were in the list. And then from there, I think, again with Leona, okay, new set. Like, what's happened in green yellow?
mm-hmm.
Still, you still have to like ground yourself and be like, okay, what came out in set two that was probably still good, but just kind of got looked over because Draven and Ezreal. It's like, okay, Lonely
Sure.
Poro, like that's a card where it's like that card was insane for all of green. Maybe it wasn't an all star in Leona, but
Mm,
nothing was. So okay, let's start that. And then obviously in set three, it's like, okay, we got like 15 new cards, or like obviously it's three odds. It's like you had Vi, you had Nami, you had Back Off. You had the Scuttle Crabs, you had a bunch of different things you can
yes.
try. So generally for me, and I recommend this for most people, is just take all the cards you think are good for the most part, and throw them in all as like three ofs in your deck and just start playing with them.
Hmm.
You'll see them more often. You'll see them in multiples. You'll see them, in all different permutations. So you can figure out like, oh, like Vi, this card's great. Every like at first people like were like, oh, we'll play like maybe one Vi. We want this green Vex, and like for me, after playing with green Vex enough, I was like, no, I when I see multiple green Vex, I hate my life. When I see multiple yellow like Vi's, like I love it. So it's like,
Mm.
no, this card's way better. And at first people like, oh, I don't know, we're gonna do like a 2-2 split, a 1-1 this, and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna play three yellow Vi's. Nami is like another card where it's just like I see it in multiples, and I'm like, cool, extra stuns. But when I was trying other new cards that came out, I was like, ooh, like I like seeing like one of these, but God, seeing these together is not very good. So I just start there, and then it's just a lot of fine tuning.
Hmm.
Playing against people I test with, playing just online ladder. I think like the online, we have Rift Atlas, we have TCG Arena, whatever people
Hmm.
use, and obviously it's not always the best testing. And I tell people like to ground yourself when like you're playing against people online because varying skill levels, varying deck ideas. Some people will have like me. I'll have a kid in my hand sometimes just playing and clicking things. Like I'm not really paying attention, right?
Sure.
But for me, what the most important part of ladder is to test all these ratios. Like I can go in. It doesn't really matter if I'm playing against the best or the worst player. That doesn't really matter to me. I don't go in to win. I'm just playing and being like, does this deck flow? If I'm playing a mid-range deck, can it go 2, 4, 6, 8 and just curve and do things? Can it do that consistently enough against the best player or worst player? Doesn't matter. Okay, cool. That means like my ratios are good, my energy curve is good, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
And then it's also just, hey, if I miss a two drop and fall behind, even against the quote unquote worst players, on this ladder, can I still win? Like, does the deck function, or is it like so necessarily like needs to hit a two drop, or like the deck just like falters? So it's like, do I have comeback potential?
Hmm.
Do I have equity when I go second or miss two drops, or overflow on certain cards? Can I do that?
Hmm.
And that's how I figure out most of these decks. That's why I say it's like 0 to 80, 85. I can build a good deck, it's core, but like I can't do it all on my own, obviously,
Sure.
with limited testing, limited time. You're not always, like as I mentioned, you're not always playing against the best players. So there'll always be some inadequacies in the deck potentially. And that's where I need other people to help me refine or
Mm.
just take more time or sit down with like 3, 4 of my really good like friends or, test partners and be like, hey, we like really need to try these cards and do this. So, it's a mixture of all that. For me, especially when you're building something new, there's never really a bad idea. There's a lot of really bad cards that have made it into Riftbound decks. I mean, like Detonate was in a deck that was winning tournaments or doing very well. That card is like on paper like awful. If you think about cards like at first, Scrap Heap looks like a terrible card that you've seen. Like you've
Yes.
seen Scrap Heap in every other game. Scrap Heap has been in every card game you've ever played. It's some useless do nothing card, like you discard it and it like gives you some effect. Maybe you draw an extra card, but then your deck is just junk. But in this game, it was insane. It was like one of the best cards ever when you
Yeah.
tried it with
As
all the thing.
well.
I don't need to go on and tell. Yeah, right. I don't need to tell everybody. They know. So there is no bad ideas,
Sure.
especially on like the inception of a new format or a new legend or an old legend who got new support. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's for me something I was really interested in looking how to build, for example, Leona, because when you said it before, like for example, when Spirit Forge came out, Leona was basically a stun deck, and then you look at the whole Spirit Forge set list, and it was just one card who offered a stun ability. So it was like,
right.
okay, sure,
Yeah.
Leona is like, okay, what do I do with it? And now comes the last set, like
Yeah.
Unleashed, and we have so many more opportunities to build this deck, which is something really interesting. And up until now, we had also the pleasure, especially in the West or West players, that we can look to China, because before
Right.
we in the West received the new set, Chinese players already playing it for a month before us. So
Hmm.
now coming to the next set, we have Vendetta, which will be out in 2 months or 1 or 2 months.
Yep.
And it's the first time that the Western player base and the Chinese player base get the set at the same time. Would you think that we will see a lot of more not junk decks, but janky decks, because we cannot, for example, use the Chinese community as a reference of playing the decks, for example, because we don't have any reference. Okay, this one performed in Chengdu in a Star City ladder match, awesome. This one was in Shanghai, for example, amazingly. Would you say that because of this situation, we will see a lot of variety before the meta sets in?
Yeah, so I think it's multifaceted there. So going into Unleashed, or excuse me, the next set, which
Vendetta,
is
Vendetta.
Vendetta. Sorry, not
Yeah,
Radiance. Yeah,
Radiance is the last one.
yeah. So Vendetta. There's like a few things going on there. So one, I agree. Like we've always had the China like sounding board. Like even if you couldn't bring your exact ideas over there, somebody would have something similar, so you can kind of get like a decent like rubber ducky over there of like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what's going on? Like, is this good? Like, things like that. You also get some like ideas that maybe you weren't expecting. Like for me, Blighted Battle Axe was used a lot on the last Chinese regional we casted
Mm-hmm.
on the Turn 'em Sideways channel, and I was like, oh, like I haven't thought about this and do that, and this is interesting. The breakpoint, so I've incorporated it into other decks I've been building as well. So like you pick up little things here and there, so it's helpful. But at the same time, I think one, you're gonna have a whole slew of deck. I think the best. Well, let me say this first. The best part about doing some of the Chinese tournaments and seeing it is for me, you never really see anything too innovative in the presumed top decks. Like
Mm-hmm.
going into just Spear Forge as an example, we all knew Draven was good, we all knew Ezreal was good, we all knew Aurelia was good for
Yes.
the most part. The exact ways in which you wanted to attack these decks were maybe a little different. Obviously, we saw Rat Ezreal, and then you had Alan's version of Ezreal that a lot of people knew behind the scenes. You had Miracle Draven, and then
Mm-hmm.
just mid-range Draven. Both were deemed good for different reasons. At the time, the pack Detonate Draven didn't really exist, at least publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And then Aurelia for the most part. Some people were playing like the Protect the President ones, and other people were incorporating Stella and just some two drops. And we kind of all knew all that, but then you go and you look at China, and like they played like close to no Miracle at all, which was crazy to most of us in the West. Ezreal, they played literally only Rat Ezreal. Felt like they didn't play, Alan's kind of control-y
Mm-hmm.
tempo, switch back and forth thing. Like that didn't exist. So sometimes at the upper echelon, for me at least, like just going off, it didn't really like do much. I think they missed some decks sometimes, or just had an aversion to playing them, whatever the reason was. But where you get a lot of information from China is like that low A, upper B tier to like lower kind of somewhat like best of decks,
Mm-hmm.
where they come with a lot of crazy ideas there, and some of them really work. And it's like it's like there's like different elements to it. It's one, a lot of people just aren't putting that much time into those lists because they don't deem them as the best decks. There's a bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
But two, again, there's like just 30 legends or something, so you're gonna miss something, of course. I think you got a lot of information from there. Like Azir decks kind of popped up a bit, Fiora decks kind of popped up a bit. In the midst of set two, early China, people were like, oh, that's like kind of crazy. That's like, oh, that's interesting. But again, it all just kind of got washed away because
Sure.
Draven and Aurelia and Ezreal were so good. But then as we picked it up in the later half of Spear Forge, a Fiora I think even won a tournament over there, even while Draven was the quote unquote broken best deck because they didn't play a lot of Miracle. And then once the bans happened, we saw Fiora, like Hook Fiora, mid range Fioras were still good. Azir obviously won tournaments. It was a great deck. So you get a lot more information there, I think, because they have so many players, and you get a wide like variety of players just due to their lottery system. That I think you get a lot of help there. Now, going to the actual question, which is it going to matter that we're all on the same stage now?
Mm-hmm.
Again, at the top levels, I don't think so. I think most of the best players figure out this stuff relatively quick. I don't think their lists are perfect. Even Alan's list from, what he played at Sydney was pretty bad considered like compared to what he's playing now. He would probably admit the same thing, right?
Sure.
So it's not like they get it perfect. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
gets it perfect. But they understood. Alan understood. The best player understood. Yeah, we want Diana. We want this. We want Hui. We want Moonfalls. Like they figured out the deck pretty well. I don't expect to see too many crazy innovations in that list going forward. Obviously, as you saw, he put in some main deck gear hate. He took out his Kha'Zix, all these things like this.
Yeah.
But they kind of figured it out, like 90, 95%, as I was mentioning. Now we're at that 95 to 100%. Um, so I don't think you're going to see anything crazy there. But the big thing is that you're now going to have 20, almost like 18-ish legends that like don't matter, right? Like for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, most people aren't going to play PGE and Annie and Kaisa. They're not going to play these decks anymore because of the best of system in the West. Now, China still has this same system, but to my understanding, the best of system isn't as crazy in China. They don't maybe sell for as much because they have more tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as like kind of exemplified as it is in the West. So the interesting part of China will be somebody comes into the new Vendetta meta and everybody's talking about this, and somebody might still show up. Like a bunch of people might still show up with like PGE or Kaisa, and they might just still be amazing decks. But in the West, I'm curious how many people, if you knew that like PGE is the de facto best deck or Kaisa, but you're gonna either have to win the tournament or walk away with close to nothing, are you gonna play it? Now, if it's like a tournament, like a regional championship or
Yep.
like one of these grassroots organizers,
Mm-hmm.
sure you'd still play it because there's no incentive. But with the best of incentive, I'm curious how much that'll carry over.
Mhm. Yeah, but I mean, we haven't seen much from Vendetta, for example, because you mentioned like Kaiser or the Proving Grounds Yi. I mean, with new set, there's always an opportunity that there will be coming cards out which will be perfectly for their playstyle. But yeah,
Right.
basically you have your decks which are amazing. Like for example, you mentioned before, or we talked about Draven, we talked about Ezreal. They both defined what meta is during the Spirit Forge run, and then as soon as the bans came out, even especially Ezreal, of course you can play it still, but it's not as strong as it was before. May it be Miracle or may it be Detonation version. Also, like for example, you mentioned before Ezreal, not Ezreal, Draven, Miracle Draven. I also played against a Miracle Jinx because of the color combination it provides. But the Miracle system, for example, completely fall flat. But then you have other champions you can, legends you can play. I mean, Irelia was hit with Fight of Light, but she's still super strong and still viable on top level. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to what people will be creating in this way, because I mean,
Yep.
I love this so much about this game. It's so new, but people still figuring out things which will be played differently from other places. Like for example, like you mentioned before, in China we have a lot of different decks, a lot of different meta decks, for example. Then when Origins came to the West, nobody in China had any on the plan, for example. Any completely went crazy in Europe and the West in general, for example.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of differences there. And then as you're mentioning, like some of these older deck, like
Mm.
PGE has gotten better cards. Like he was one of the best heroes when he came out, and then just is got pretty good cards in set two. You know, Lonely Poro and things of that nature. They got a second GA or a second Zonias in the form
Yes.
of Guardian Angel, whatever. And then set three, it's like they got Back Off, they got Nami, they got Scuttle Crab, they got Rengar, they got Violet. They almost had
Especially
12 to 15
Rengar.
new cards. Like I said, Leona got 15 new cards in the deck because of
Mm-hmm.
Nami and all this things, and that's true. And that hero kind of stunk, right? And it needed it. PGE was one of the best decks and still got like 12, 15 new cards in the deck. Granted, they don't play all of them as three ofs anymore, but still they got a lot of new cards.
At least the originally has now a signature spell which he can use, because the original one was, I
Yep.
mean, come on. But
Yeah.
the
That
thing
as
is,
well.
every time when I talk to somebody, even if I interview something, we talk about PGE, I'm getting still a little bit salty that Riot Games put out a second Yi legend before we get a playable Garen unit.
Yeah, I mean, there's that too, right? Yeah, I mean, the RNG has made the deck completely different. Obviously, the old RNG was good from PGE. It had
Mm-hmm.
ganking. It was a little more mid game. It was a little more mid to late game rather. Had ganking and pseudo accelerate entering ready. So those were all good. But now it's just like, yeah, what if I gave you a 4 might unit that costs 4 energy, that defends for 6, that gets ganking eventually, deflect for some reason? Like, why not? And it's just like, oh, cool. And by the way, you also got a new big green one. Not that you play it in the old D, but the
Oh.
new one. So it's just like. Yeah, there's a little bit of you're gonna see like kind of like power fluctuation with like
Mm-hmm.
biases where it's like, oh, like there's already an Echo champion and now like Echo is gonna come out. It's like, oh, now they got
Yes.
three options maybe, or like you have this one. Fiora is like a good example. You already had a Fiora, now you got three Fioras. Rengar, you got
Mm-hmm.
three Rengars now. And I mean they have the foresight to say you can only play one signature or up to three copies of a signature spell.
Yes.
I think is the rules. You can play like two Alpha Strikes and one Highlander if you really wanted to. So you
Yeah.
can't just play six of signature spells. So that's at least good. They had the foresight for that.
That would be a little
But
bit
yeah,
unfair at the
yeah,
moment, I would
yeah.
say.
I mean, to be fair, I'd love to play against somebody who played three Highlanders and three Alpha Strikes in their deck. I'd be, oh my god, they're playing a three-card useless deck. But for other units, they might have multiple good signature spells in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's only natural because I mean, you have so many different kind of units. You have so many different champions in League of Legends, especially, which leads actually to my next question, because I always like to ask my interview guests. If you could choose one legend which is not in the game, also in Riftbound yet, from League of Legends as a legend unit, which one would it be for you?
Oh, this is a hard question. Everybody will hate me for this. I played like a bit of League of Legends and I played a lot of TFT at a time. I've
Mm-hmm.
played maybe like 100 hours of League of Legends. I've probably have about 8,000 hours in Dota. So Dota is like my main game.
For me, it's the other way
Um,
around.
yeah. So I have a lot to say about Dota. But from the bit I played of League, I know I played Ashe a bunch, and I know she has
Mm-hmm.
her legend in the game, which I told everybody is going to be one of like the best cards in This new set. It's gonna like really do a lot of things. Now, of course, it's not like meta defining, like say something like,
But I saw it a lot.
Rengar or Vex, but
I
you're gonna
saw it a
see it a
lot.
lot in
Yeah.
yellow decks. It's good for just taking cards. I told people as a pretty much only Aurora player for the first set and a half, like
Mm-hmm.
this is gonna really hurt Aurora guys. It's like this, like, be like, oh, but it's five in this. I'm like, yeah, but it's still really good. And if it
And it's
takes
a
the
unit.
Aurora, like the game ends. Yeah, and it's a unit, like the game just ends. So Ash would be one I wouldn't mind to see as a legend. It'd be interesting. I'd assume it'd be yellow blue,
Mm-hmm.
which takes me a little bit off. I kind of hate that color combination, but if maybe they make her yellow something else or order something else, maybe I'd be a little bit more interested.
Mm-hmm.
I played a lot of Quinn, if I remember, the Falcon
Yes.
guy. I think is what he does. So,
She's a hunter
oh,
from
she. Okay, there you
Demacia.
go. Yeah.
No, the her hawk is a guy, so it's okay.
Sure. Okay. I knew. Yeah, like I said, I played maybe 100 hours. Of League. I played a bit of Malphite, I believe, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
think
Mm-hmm.
he'd be very interesting in Riftbound. But I'd see what they do, because he's like obviously like more tanky and all that. And I feel like those are the only like real League of Legends like champions that I've like played. Like obviously I know like Mundo and I know a lot of these like Jarva and all this crap, but
Sure, sure,
I never
sure,
really
sure.
like played them to like have some type of like affinity to them.
A
I'd
lot,
say those are the ones I played the
a
most
lot of
was
people,
Ash. Oh, a Sivir, I played a bunch of Sivir. I do love Sivir, by the way.
but
I
we
made
have her
everybody try to
already.
play Sivir. Yeah, but we already have her. I was like, I made everybody try to. Well, that's the thing, though. I made everybody try to play Sivir because I was like the big orange one with the boomerang
Mm-hmm.
because that was my favorite part of her from the MOBA. But like, it's just like nothing like either Sivir has played. Like the Miracle Sivir that existed, like kind of sure. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, she wasn't very I like didn't have an identity to what like I felt like in League she was like the farm. I mean obviously she's an ADC or
Mm-hmm.
attack damage carry, whatever you want to call her. She has a lot of cleave and farming abilities, farming patterns. She has mobility. I feel like that never really got transferred over into Riftbound, whether it's because the orange one was a little too expensive or just the fact that everybody played freaking Aurora. But I feel like I never really got the build up to something strong thing where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I have this Sivir and she's like farming a little bit and cleaving down some units and
Yeah.
she gets really strong. I feel like I never really got that class identity, but
At least, at least with a signature spell, you could ready your units like in the game
yeah,
itself. When you use your ultimate ability, everybody gets speed,
yeah, speed boosts and
speed
attack
boosts and
speed, I
attack
think, or
speed.
something. Yeah,
So this is okay, a little bit of flavor wise. But for
yeah,
example, it's not as flavor wise as, for example, Rengar, which you can just ambush. You can play him
right.
out
Ambush
of
pouncing.
out of the
Yeah,
bush. So that's very interesting. Yeah,
Emo is very good. Obviously, he's like a very good, like, oh, this makes sense, hidden, blowing things
I
up.
hate
Like,
this
whether
card.
it's good or bad, yeah, like, whether it's good or bad, right? It's just like, it felt flavorful. I feel like Sivir missed the mark a little
Hmm.
bit. There's a few others I can go down, but like I said, I didn't play too much League, but I just know I played a lot of Sivir, and for
Yeah.
me, it felt like it missed the mark. But anyway, yeah.
Mm. So yeah, well, thank you very much for talking to me. It's been a lot of insights you gave me. What are the next tournaments you're going to play in or at?
So for me, I'll be playing at I think one of the new Showdown series. I think it's called
Mm-hmm.
either called Showdown or Showdown series that Riot has put out
Yep.
in Pittsburgh. I think it's like July 11th, maybe might be the date. I'll obviously, of course, be at Hartford. I was at every regional pretty much up until um, I think Lille,
Australia?
and then I
Oh,
couldn't. Yeah, I was at everyone up until Lille, and then I couldn't make
okay.
it there. I was supposed to go. I canceled last minute, and then Australia, Sydney, and this one that came up this weekend in Vancouver. Again, I had tickets. My wife was taking a vacation. She had some stuff to do, so I stayed home with the kids. So I
Mm.
took these two regionals off. I already went to enough already. She went to Bologna with me for what it's worth, but I couldn't abandon her too much, so I stayed home with the kids for like the last week and a half. She was out. But now that I'm back, yeah, I have Hartford coming up. I won't be able to make Amsterdam. But I
Schade.
have Hartford coming up, and then the Showdown series on
Mm.
the 11th. I go to a lot of the Charlie's CCS
Mm-hmm.
tournaments when I can make it there. So I plan to be at a few of those if that comes up. I also have some nationals and pro tours for other games that I play. So I'll be a little busy then. But come end of July, August, I'll be like pretty much back to Riftbound full time. So pretty
Mm-hmm.
much every tournament stateside, I will probably be there
All right.
going forward. And of course, I'm qualified for the regional championships, which are rumored to be in November.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not sad to hear that you can't make it to Utrecht. Actually, I wanted to
Yes,
because
yes, yeah.
everybody I'm talking to has said, "Hey, when you see me in Utrecht, hook me up. I will invite you for a beer."
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, last time I was in Amsterdam was for a pro tour like 2 years ago, so I haven't been there in a bit. But yeah, I was
MTG,
unfortunately
MTG
able to
then.
make this one. No, Flesh and Blood for
Ah,
that
Flesh
one.
and
It was
Blood. Okay.
yeah, yep. So that was just like Amsterdam.
This is
You
so.
know.
To be honest, off the record, I have to say, when everybody's talking about Flesh and Blood, it's one of the games I really want to play, but I can't because I have Riftbound. I play a little bit of Magic. My pet game is Star Wars Unlimited, which I just like.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like because it's nice. It's not nothing special, but it's nice. And I cannot put money into, even if it's just buying a starter deck, I cannot put into money into Flesh and Blood because otherwise I will spend more and more and more, and I don't want to. I can't do
Oh yeah,
this.
I mean, Flesh and Blood has been very expensive over the time, and then as well as it is not a game you can just pick up. It is a game you need to put like a few hundred hours into to really
Yes, I heard
like
that.
you could play anything. Like you could play anything, of course, but like if you want to feel some type of like even when you like you don't need to do the best, but even when you lose, you feel some type of satisfaction. You need like a few dozen to 100 hours in that game, or you're just gonna feel like you got stomped so hard. It's
Mm,
gonna feel like your first 5 to 10 Riftbound games, except over the course of a few months if you put very little time into it. Like it's gonna feel that bad because the ledge or the different heroes in that game and everything else that goes into it. So
mm.
yeah, that's the one unfortunate part about Flesh and Blood. A bit of money. It's gotten a bit cheaper over the years, but it's still like a bit of an investment. But then the time investment is huge.
Yes, and I don't have time for that because I want to compete in Utrecht and learn something for Riftbound for
Right.
that.
Right, of course. Yeah.
All right, it's been a pleasure talking to you, man. Thank you very much for giving me some insights and the audience some insights in how to create a guide or how much time you spend in creating a guide and what goes on in the upper echelon when it comes to creating decks and playing in general. So yeah, thanks for taking the time.
Yep, not a problem. Thank you.
All right, then I see you on the Rift. I would say if you would play League of Legends, but you're more a Dota player. So
I haven't played either in a few times. I'm too old to play mobile. I'd punch too many walls at this point. I'm old. I can't be doing
all right,
that.
then I see you. I don't know what do we say in Riftbound. I don't know if we have anything. Then I see you playing cards.
Yep. Of
All right,
course.
have
Yep.
a good one. Thank you.
I'll see ya. Catch you around.